What we've seen over the last year in the Middle East is certainly some significant popular revolutions. It started in Tunisia and then it spread. Of course, it moved into Egypt, and I think for the United States, that really brought the most attention. Egypt has been considered a staunch ally of the United States in the region, so there were a number of implications for American foreign policy and American interest in general. A large part of the oil reserves are right in that area, so anytime you have these kinds of military confrontations, the oil supply can be in jeopardy. That raises prices. That directly affects us at the pump. Israel is another factor too. I mean, people are quite concerned, will a new Egyptian regime honor its treaty to Israel? What about Syria? A lot of times when Syria's had internal problems, it tries to solidify the differences to come behind a unified government to attack Israel. And all the saber rattling recently about Iran puts that as yet another flashpoint. Egypt geographically is the center of the Arab world, I think, and culturally it certainly is too. It's one of the most populous of the Arab countries. It has the biggest cinema industry, the biggest television production. So much that happens in Egypt just goes to the other parts of the Arab world. Then you add that to the social media, which has been so important in these demonstrations. And that Tunisia occurred, and then Egypt, and both of them were relatively quickly in how quickly they were able to get rid of the president and to reassert democratic institutions, at least calling for them, I think was very encouraging to others. But then we see other places it's bogged down. These kinds of popular movements have gone on to Yemen, Bahrain, and Syria, Libya, and each region has its own different elements in the mix. You have tribal groups in the Yemen, you have tribal groups in Libya. You don't have tribes in Egypt, but you have a 10% Christian population. You have a number of ethnic groups in Syria. And then there's factors too, like the militancy of the culture. The Arab cultures are not at all the same. And so, again, in Libya, where you have a lot of tribalism and you have a lot of guns, there's more prone to violence. Syria, the regime is ruthless and is not afraid to use the army in violence. They've estimated now in Syria that you're losing 40 people a day that are being killed by the government. And then in the aftermath, as we look at it this year later, again, we've got the full gamut. Tunisia has had a successful election, and they are in the midst of moving into more democratic institutions in Tunisia. In Syria, Assad is resisting. In the Yemen, the president says yet again that he's going to leave. I'll believe it when I see that one. In Libya, they're trying to create virtually a whole nation. There was no infrastructure there. But when you move to Egypt, what you see, I think, is not anything near as Tunisia, and that's what the people want. They want a free election. They want the military to step back and to step out of politics. Nasser came out of the military, Sadat came out of the military, Mubarak came out of the military, and for all practical purposes, we have a military ruler now. We have seen the first steps in some popular elections, parliamentary elections. The election of the prime minister has not occurred yet, so we're still quite a ways away from seeing how it shakes out. And I think it's that anxiety, that uncertainty, that certainly has many Egyptians on edge. This Arab Spring can go even further. We see it in Occupy Wall Street, using this to try and bring attention to some real-world issues. And in a sense, that's the Arab Spring has brought those kinds of larger issues about people getting involved again and of demonstrating and so forth. And I think that's a good thing.